Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, taking a look at my video. So I went back to the San Fermin Masters. So I have Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley So. And this is taken from round 3, if I'm not mistaken. I think it is 3, yes. For all my people in the Philippines, as always, mabuhay. Kamusta na? Masaya akong makikinig muli. Maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Amasaw tayo, magandang umaga, aking mga kaibigan. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Mabuting pagbati. Anybody who is coming from Norway, I would say God Morgan to you. And Tusen Tak. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, taking a look at my video. If you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we have for this game. So we have E4, E5, knight to F3, knight to C6, and bishop to B5. And then we have A6. Oh my gosh. That move is scary. Nah, I'm playing. This is the Roy López opening. It is the Morphy defense. This is just Morphy's way of handling this bishop to B5. You're not worried about the capture here because, you're going to be taking with the D pawn. And you do have a lot of, options here. You're not worried about losing a pawn because, you're going to be getting it pinned. The king is still stuck in the center of the board. And one of the strongest, when I was playing E4, one of the strongest replies after castles here, which is the way that Bobby Fischer liked playing it, was actually bishop to G4. And the Alapin gambit is actually it's actually very, very sound and very, very hard to play against. And in rare cases, it does give black actually an advantage. So don't play that against the computer. But anyway, we do have bishop coming back to A4. Just trying to preserve the bishop and just keep a lot of tactical options open. So we do see knight to F6. We got castles by white. Bishop to E7. As you guys know, of course, you're not going to be winning a pawn here because the rook is going to be swinging over and your knight is a little bit weirdly placed. You're forced to kind of open the position and try to defend, with like a D5 or an F5 situation. So it can get pretty dicey. So we do see bishop to E7. And then now we do protect the pawn with rook to E1. We see B5 by black. Backing up here, instead of rook to E1, bishop taking C6 was actually pretty solid. After pawn takes C6, you do have D3. That's just another way. But of course, like I said, you're going to usually be taking with the D pawn, freeing up this bishop to move. So, it's just another way you can go about doing it. But we do see B5. Bishop comes back to B3, of course. And then we see castles by black. We have A4. There's two main ways that you want to try to give your bishop some room to retreat. There's C3. And then there's also, even A3 is possible. Just kind of giving your bishop somewhere to kind of tuck into. Because knight to A5 can be a little bit annoying. And it's, threatening to remove your bishop, which is doing a really, really nice job on this diagonal. But like I said, we do see A4. Pawn comes to B4. We see D3, D6, knight B to D2. We see bishop to E6, and then we see knight to C4. This is just kind of blocking up, this bishop. But asking in black if they want to trade their bishop for this knight, which it doesn't seem like it's too fair of a trade. So we do see rook over to B8. We see A5, just trying to grab as much space as possible. These positions are usually pretty blocked. So each side is just trying to fight for as much space as possible. So we do see knight over to A7. And this is the novelty of the game. We're, possibly moving this knight out of the way so that we can push C5 and just solidify this structure here. And so we do see D4 starting to, and I think I said knight to A7 was the novelty. I think I said that. I'm not sure. But we see D4. And this is just trying to break the position open a little bit. And also, just clearly just win a pawn. Because if we have chances to trade here, we're gonna be grabbing a pawn. So we do see knight taking E4, and this is a pretty slick move. This is like a cute little move because you're trying to set up a situation where the rook and the knight are one file apart, and you can push D5 to try to fork them, which actually is what Magnus Carlsen does go into, but it's not quite what you think. The rook takes on E4. We see D5 forking the two pieces. We see rook taking E5, and then we see pawn taking C4. And we have actually reached a point in the game that in this type of a position, if you want to go ahead and stop and see what Magnus Carlsen plays, go ahead and do so. All right, cool. So I think a lot of you guys will see it has to be kind of like a crazy type of move. And the craziest move in the position is actually rook takes e6. So that is actually what we see in the game, is rook taking e6. And there's two different options that you have in this position for the most part. There is pawn taking e6, and then there was pawn taking b3. One is severely better than the other. What was actually played in the game was pawn takes b3. And this is actually the incorrect capture to take. And the reason being is because you allow rook takes a6, which is what we saw in the game. And this not only is clearing the way for this passed pawn, it's also, you know, hitting the knight with the tempo and now forcing the knight to move. So then after the knight goes to b5, we see pawn taking b3. And as you can see, white is up, you know, a crazy amount of pawns. So going back to the position that we had, it was actually much better to take on e6 with the pawn and allow bishop takes c4, bishop to f6, bishop takes e6 with check, king to h8, queen comes to d3. You know, it is in that position that, let me see here. Yes, 3, 6, 7. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit less active in this particular situation because you don't have any passed pawns for white. So that is the major difference in the situation. You're not hitting the knight with the tempo. You haven't cleared the way for your a pawn because, you know, black is going to get in a fairly defensive position, you know, trying to prevent this pawn from moving. So that's the problem when you allow your opponent to have a passed pawn. So like I said, we did see pawn takes b3 in the position that we had in the game. We see queen down to d5, kind of, you know, somewhat blockading the pawn, but then also, you know, preparing, you know, for c5 to be coming. We see queen to c2. We do see c5 coming. Pawn takes c5. We see bishop taking c5. And we really want to get our rook like in a safe area. Because right now it's not looking the best because it does have the ability to get attacked by queen to b7. And you can see that you don't have a lot of places that you can try to swing it to on this rank. So we have to try to clear some space. So we do see bishop to e3, and this does allow your pawn to get isolated, but it does free your rook up a lot more. So the bishop takes e3, pawn takes e3, and we see rook f to c8, and we don't see the immediate queen move. We actually see rook to b6. The point obviously being that if the rook takes here, you're going to be taking here, and then you're getting back rake mated because the rook is going to have to cover, then the queen is going to have to cover, and you've just literally just hoovered all of black's pieces off the board. You know, that's what happens when you're getting back rake mated. So we do see rook to b6 as a you know, Zwitschenzoog move, and then we see rook moving over to a8, and then we see another in-between move, rook to d1. Rook takes c2, rook takes d5. We see knight back to c7. Rook to d7, which makes the most logical sense because it is putting the rook on the 7th rank. And you're also preparing to move this next one up. We see h6, just giving the king some luft. We see knight to d4, attacking the rook on c1, or on c2. We see rook to c1 with check, king to f2. We see rook takes a5, and then we do see rook to c6. And it is actually in this position that Wesley So does resign the game. Now, you're resigning the game simply because of this continuation that we see here. You're going to have to trade the rooks on c6 because this knight is now double hit and there is no way to defend it, and your rook is undefended on c1. So after you do trade on c6, the knight is going to come to c6 and it's going to attack your rook on a5. So you have your rook hit and the knight hit, but unfortunately there's nowhere you can move your rook to defend this knight. Because of course you can't move here because you're just going to get it lost. So this knight is dropping. So in light of that, that's why Wesley So resigned the game. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense than maybe the position that you see here, because it might seem like, you know, maybe there's something you can do to kind of get out of this in this position. But after you see the position after knight takes c6, you know, you're hitting the knight and you're also hitting the rook. You can see that there's not a way out of this. And then also you're down a pawn, you know, as well, just on top of that. So that is that game. So it's a pretty interesting game. It seemed like it was pretty even for like a while, and then, you know, it's just, it's crazy how like there's that big of a difference between two different captures. Like it kind of seems like, you know, you can capture one way instead of another way. So yeah, you really have to take some time and sit and think like, you know, what are the pluses and minuses behind just these different types of captures that you're presented with, because they are not all created equal. But for all my people in the Philippines who get these good mornings, so maanyong buntag, mayad na agahan, nainbeg na bigat, masantos ya kabason, marhe na aga, buenos dias, maanyong aga, mapia na uma, kapian kapuno dios, mayapa abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapapita, my big abukla, marja na buntag, marya mainat, maupe na aga, kasanyangan si elobi, salam, assalamu alaikum, merci. Appreciate you guys very much. Tusen tak. And I will see you guys next time. And it was Makita. Makita. I want to say Tayo, Mamaya. Let me see. Where did I put it? I think that's it. Makito Tayo Mamaya. I think that's what I put. See you later. If I'm not mistaken on that. Let's see. Come on. Okay, I can't find it. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, it was Makita. I don't know where I put it. Okay, well, I'll see you guys next time.